Welcome to Amplify Family Medicine, the official podcast by the Alabama Academy of Family Physicians. In each episode, we dive into the challenges, triumphs, and innovative practices that shape family medicine across our state. Whether you are a medical professional, a student with an interest in family medicine, or simply a health-conscious listener, Amplify Family Medicine promises to provide invaluable insights and inspire action. Let's amplify the impact of family physicians in Alabama together.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for coming back to listen to another episode. I'm so excited to be joined by a group of young docs and student docs here who have an interest in family medicine and are joining us today to talk a little bit about their interest in family medicine, why they chose family medicine for a resident, and then for the students, why they have this interest in family medicine. Of course, I'm a practicing family medicine doc. I've been out of my training for just a few years now. I still count myself as a young doc, but I'm excited to talk with these folks here today. And so I'm going to take a minute and let the three of them introduce themselves. Lily, will you introduce yourself to us a little bit first?
Yes, my name is Lily Pounders. I'm from Russellville, Alabama. It's a small town in North Alabama, and I'll be going into my second year at UAB's medical school.
Good deal. So great to have you here. Thank you. Trey, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, my name is Trey Pinkerton. I'm from Fed, Alabama. It's about 45 minutes north of Tuscaloosa. It's also a really small town, and I'm also going into my second year at UAB.
Good to see you, Trey. And I love to hear people from Fayette pronounce Fayette because they call it Fayette and not
Yes,
Fayette.
ma'am.
So good to have you here. And then Stuart, good to see you today. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on these days.
I'm a current PGY2 in family medicine at Cahaba Family Medicine Residency in Centerville, Alabama. Originally from Demopolis, have been in Tuscaloosa now since 2011, but also did the Rural Medical Scholars track through University of Alabama. So strong interest in rural family medicine.
Good deal. Well, let's talk a little bit about that and about that interest in family medicine. And we'll start with you, Stuart, because you were practicing as a family medicine resident. Tell us a little bit about what made you choose family medicine as a residency choice and as a career option. And then Lily and Trey, I'll ask you after Stuart talks, just why you have this interest in family medicine at this stage of your medical school training. So Stuart, start us off a little bit. What made you choose family medicine as an option for your residency?
I think that, like, in a single word, it was variety or flexibility. Being raised in a rural town, like, I had a family medicine doctor growing up who literally took care of everything. And even back then, I mean, from just like, well child visits to sick visits to even minor surgeries. Like, back then, these guys were still doing like appendectomies, which is just sort of blows my mind nowadays. But seeing that level of like variety and flexibility and just like the way that they can play into a small town really stuck out to me. Going to medical school, I felt pretty confident that family medicine was something I wanted to do. I sort of danced with a couple of different specialties through medical school, as I think we all do. But ultimately, like, when it came time for fourth year, match list and things like that, I was deathly afraid of putting myself into a box. And I felt like some of the specialties I was interested in, they were really cool sandboxes to play in. But at the end of the day, like, you were stuck in that sandbox and there was no other like playground equipment you could get out and use, to use sort of a playground analogy. But with family medicine, it was very different. Like, you could do, outpatient medicine, primary care, urgent care, inpatient medicine, work in an ER, like shift work is your thing, wound care, procedures. I mean, it's just like the whole gamut. And really the only limiting factor is like the training you receive in residency and postgraduate years. And so that really stuck out to me. It just being able to sort of have a varied practice long term. And I think that was ultimately what sold me on our specialty.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. I think a lot of times folks will go into that first year of medical school and it's just wide open, and there are all these thoughts. And even third year of medical school, when you start to get into the different rotations, it's it is a little bit like a sandbox, right? And we do dance around with other specialties that are out there. And for some of us, it is late in our medical school training when we lock in on family medicine. For others of us, it's early. We knew it going into medical school, or especially if we, have done some preparatory training that really locked us into family medicine just by virtue of the exposure that we've had. And so, Lily and Trey, tell us a little bit about your experience. We obviously understand that you have an interest in family medicine, but tell us where that comes from. And Trey, I'll ask you to go first.
Yeah, so similar to Dr. Quinn, I also grew up in a really small town. I also did the Rural Medical Scholars Program at Tuscaloosa. So I think probably two different things kind of grew my interest. So starting out, obviously growing up, the family medicine doctor in a small town, he's the guy, he or she, whatever. They're the person that you go to for everything. So I got to see that firsthand. Even in high school, I started shadowing my family physician too. You go to the grocery store, the local restaurant, and I mean, they know everybody. Everybody's their patient, and so I got to see that connection that they were able to build with their patients. And then when you go to like a hospital in a bigger city and you meet a surgeon, they hardly even remember your name a lot of times. And so that connection with their patients was the first thing that got me interested in family med. And then when I got to undergrad, I did an internship. It was through the rural programs, and there was a doctor that I shadowed in Hell County, and I won't go into the whole story, but something happened while I was there shadowing, and the doctor that I was with, he ended up having to speak to the family afterwards, and the compassion and the empathy, the connection that he had, not only with this patient, but also having to explain the situation to their family, really like it hit home because I'm a talker and I like to talk to people. I like to build a connection and relationship with people, and I've only seen that from a family medicine side versus other specialties. So that's really what piqued my interest. And then now that I'm in medical school, I have gotten to see other specialties and shadow a little bit, see what it's about, and nothing has really compared so far to family medicine. So that's my kind of interest so far.
Yeah, I love that. Lily, tell us kind of where your interest in family medicine comes from.
Yes, so I have very similar stories. Of course, I grew up in a small town, and just anything and everything that you needed, that was who you went to, was the family care provider. So I was actually able to work with my primary care physician whenever I was, I think, a sophomore in college. I spent the summer with her working in her clinic, and I also went to Guatemala for the 4 summers with her and just did saw a variety of patients and a variety of problems. And I just knew then that this is exactly what I wanted to do one day, because I loved the relationship that she was able to build with her patients. The way she was able to listen to them, to just take a step back and listen to what was going on, not only healthcare problems, but why it was bothering them and what their thoughts were on the issue. And then the way that she was able to take action and to use her resources to help them live their best lives. And just like Trey mentioned, when you go out in the community and you see your primary care or your family med doc, everyone knows them and they talk to them. And sometimes that's a good thing. And sometimes they'll tell you your problems at dinner. But just like everyone mentioned, I love talking to people and I love listening to people. And so I just thought, what better and what better way to use the just opportunities that I've been blessed with than to give back to others and help them through family medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all of those stories that y'all mentioned. I think that is what draws so many of us to family medicine is the experiences that we had with our own docs growing up and those that we have had the opportunity to shadow with. One of the things I was gonna ask you all was just that who has shaped your journey so far? And I've heard you all say the family docs that you grew up with. And so I'll change that question just a little bit to ask about advice and if there is any advice, and if you can think of something right off, and you just go first, but any advice that you have received throughout your training that you feel like is something that you'll carry with you into your training. And that could have come from a family doc, it could have come from professor or attending otherwise. I think about Dr. Martin Wabanga, who's in Prattville, which is home for me. I shadowed him as a student and have just known him for a very long time. His daughter is one of my closest friends. And when he learned that family medicine was what I wanted to do, he gave me a piece of advice that I'll never forget. And it centered around, the beauty of family medicine is that in our training, we are taught so much about so many things. And he said that in your practice, in your career, you will have a lot of things walk in the door, and a lot of things you're going to know. You're going to know because you've seen it, but things are going to also come in the door that you have a little bit of knowledge about, but is not in your wheelhouse. And so one of the things he really stressed was the knowing what you know, but also knowing what you don't know, right? And knowing when we need to call on, our specialty colleagues, but also making sure that we know what we know and that we do that extra training, that we do that CME, that we continue to study and learn to practice to the top of our specialty, which is so important. Is there any advice that any of you have received that you think, is something that you'll hold on to forever? Again, I remember that from being a med student, if not pre-med student.
I think there's been a number of pieces like throughout training that have stuck with me. There were a surgeon I worked with in Tuscaloosa in med school that it seemed like every day there was like some little gem of advice I took away from from working with him. But the most recent piece was so simple. I was actually on the phone last week with a cardiologist colleague who is sort of my go-to for all things cardiology and is very supportive. And at Cahaba, we have a relatively large uninsured or underinsured population that we care for. And so this particular guy had come to me undiagnosed heart failure that was now diagnosed. It had an echo and really needed a pretty urgent heart cath. And so I was on the phone with him, kind of giving him the clinical picture, and he was the one that had actually read the echo. And I said, look, I know you guys have a charity program, but I just want you to know, like, this guy he's underinsured. And he just kind of stopped and he said, Stuart, he said, here's the thing. He said, there's one standard of care. And I think so many times, like in training, especially for our patients who aren't as fortunate as others to have like the top tier medical coverage, like we have to get creative in the ways that we find to get certain services and certain procedures covered. But I think that's also like the beauty of family medicine is like most of us see that as a challenge and rise to the challenge rather than, sort of lay down and quit. But just hearing like, there's one standard of care, and that standard of care is based off the diagnosis and the patient's clinical picture, not like that patient's ability to pay or insurance coverage. And that's something that just stuck with me in a way that like I'll take forward, into my future practice.
Yeah, so I've got two pieces of advice, or two from two different people. So the first one was it was a surgeon that I was shadowing, and it was my first time seeing surgery. So I was talking to him afterwards, and just kind of just making small talk. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him most likely family medicine. And he looked at me kind of funny and he laughed. And I was like, "What are you laughing about?" And he said, "Well, it's just funny because I had the same thought process when I was in med school." He said, "Somebody told me one time you have to decide if you want to talk to people or if you don't." He said, "If you don't, do this, do what I'm doing. If you do, do family medicine." And so I love it. So that's one piece of advice. The second one, I'll go back to the doctor I was with in Hale County, and so he was a family med doc. He also had ER training, and so he was in the clinic, but the clinic was beside the hospital. And so lady came in, cardiac arrest, and I was involved helping with CPR and everything. And she ended up passing away. I had to talk to the family. And so after that, I mean, I was 19 years old, like that. It stayed with me for a while, and I kind of like had to go to the bathroom by myself and like just think about what had just happened, what I had just seen. And when I came back, obviously he could tell that I was a little bit upset. And he told me, he was like, he said, if you didn't react that way, I would be concerned. So he told me that you have to like let your emotions out, but then you also have to, and don't bottle them up, but then you also have to keep composure, compose yourself in front of the family, and then be right back there for the next patient because you have more people that day that are counting on you. So those two things are the biggest thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah, yeah. Lily?
Yeah, I can wrap us up with this one. I have one big piece of advice that ever since they told me, I've just never forgotten it. And it comes back up in my mind often through the challenges of medical school or just life in general. Dr. Keith Bufford is his name. He used to helped direct the rural medicine program in Auburn, and he's since retired. But at our white coat ceremony, I think it would have been 2 years ago now in Auburn, he was speaking and he said, as a primary care physician and a family medicine physician, that you really have two great tools at all times, and it's the ability to listen and the ability to touch. And he said, whether that means just sitting down and asking a patient how their day's going, or putting a hand on their shoulder with encouragement, listening to their heartbeat, not letting them walk out of the door feeling like you were rushed or you didn't really notice what was going on with them. Those are your two greatest strengths. And that really stuck out to me a lot, because I thought, we're learning a lot in medical school. We have a lot of knowledge and new skills, but those two things never change, and they make a really big difference with every single patient you encounter. And then one other piece of advice that kind of came to mind is Dr. Gwen and Trey were telling their stories was last year when I was in Dadeville Community Hospital with Dr. Littman, and we were seeing a broad variety of patients, and we went in one room and they loved him, and we went in the next room and it ended up with a police officer having to come. It was just a very tense situation. But Dr. Littman told me that you need to meet every patient with the same compassion and the same integrity that you met the one before. And I agree with that. And I remember that as well, because I know there's going to be challenges and there's going to be difficulties, tough days and great days. But I think that that's true, that you need to make sure every patient you see feels the same compassion and you make the same wise decisions with them as you did before.
Absolutely. I love the comments that all of you made. And I think that that is something that anyone who's listening to this can think back to advice that they received from mentors throughout their training, even in their careers, and maybe even advice we've gotten from patients. My patients give me some of the best advice that I encounter. And so I love that you all shared those pieces with us. Now, we are all at three different stages of our career. So we've got medical students here, we've got a resident here. And I, of course, am in attending, I guess, in private practice, out practicing every day. And I think that of the folks who are listening, again, we'll have medical students listening to the episode, we'll have residents, we'll have attendings listening. If there was something you could tell people who are at other stages of their training or their career that they may not understand. So for me, I'm practicing physician, attending physician. I would tell you guys as medical students, you guys as residents, again, what you always hear, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The training is almost over. And that ability to go out and practice the way you want to practice medicine, the way you envision practice medicine. But what I'd tell you most as it relates to family medicine is similar to what Stuart mentioned earlier, that the beauty of family medicine that I see so much more now on this end as an attending is that you truly can turn it into whatever you want to turn it into. And that could possibly mean doing a fellowship after your training. It could mean the type of practice that you go into. So whether you go into a private practice, whether you are employed by a system, whether you do direct primary care, concierge practice. So the type of practice that you have, the type of medicine that you practice. You can decide as a family doc that you don't want to see kids anymore. You can run your practice almost like an internal medicine doc would. You can decide that you don't want to do GYN procedures anymore. You can decide that you only want to see kids. That is the beauty of our training, that it is so expansive that we can turn the rest of our lives into whatever we want it to be. And we can recreate our careers many times over. So the advice that I would give, or what I would want you all to realize at this stage, is learn as much as you can now, because you never know, in 20, 30 years down the road, you may want to reinvent yourself as a family medicine doc. In that, so I'll ask each of you that thing. And Stuart, I'll start with you first. What would you want medical students who are coming behind you to know? And what would you want to say to attendings who maybe have forgotten what it's like to be a resident?
Feel like that's a little bit of a trick question.
It is. It was a little bit of a trick question, so answer wisely.
Yeah. I think building on what you said, Dr. Anderson, I think that's like great advice. And I think that holds true like across our specialty. One, I think as generalists, I hate that term, but like family medicine is a specialty. Like you're going to hear the noise through med school that like, oh, well, you're not doing like this really, detailed surgical subspecialty. And like, I mean, you're going to have loans and you're not going to be able to pay them off. I mean, just look at the data. Like family medicine docs don't make any money. And, I mean, like I don't know. There's just a lot of noise through med school that sort of like frowns on. I'm not gonna say frowns on, but it's just like family medicine is not a specialty that's held to like the same, I guess, honor as some other specialties. But for someone going through med school who is like interested in family medicine, I say ignore the noise. Like I'm one that I considered other specialties. The other thing it took for me was sort of stepping a little bit outside of like academic family medicine into the rural family medicine setting, because like rural family medicine docs a lot of times practice much differently than like academic family medicine docs, and have a, just by nature of being rural, have a larger scope of practice. And for me, that was one of the big things that attracted me to the field, was like, I'm not referring a patient to ortho for a joint injection. I'm doing it on that Tuesday afternoon, like, and I felt like in academic family medicine, there was a lot more like, oh, well, that joint injection, I'm going to refer to sports med or whatever. So yeah, ignore the noise. Like family medicine is such a great specialty. Like, if you're wanting to do procedures, like just in the first year of residency, I've done intubations, I've done central lines, I've done numerous joint injections. POCUS is a big focus now, and like so we have multiple ultrasounds that like have just changed the way you practice clinically because you can get real-time imaging. So um yeah, for me it's just like, if family medicine is your thing, one, like, sure, take a look at academic family medicine, and if that's what you love, that's great. But also like be sure to step out into the community and see what like community family medicine docs like Dr. Anderson and Demopolis, like others in smaller towns are doing, because like we are, sort of the front line and the way people enter our healthcare system. So it's a great specialty with so much variety and so many offerings, and you will absolutely have a great life, both from a financial perspective and from a quality of life perspective. So
Now I'll let you off the hook of what would you want the attendings to do.
oh, the attendings. Uh, that's tough. Like I don't, having just come out off of intern year, like there's a lot of call, associated with intern year. And having two kids and a wife, like that was tough. I felt like in a lot of ways I was an absentee father. And so that weighs heavily on you. Like when you're on a long call shift, at my program, we have like 24-hour weekend call where we're in house. Um, but most attendings that I worked with over the last year, like they understood that and they were gracious and like really went out of their way to like to let me know that like they were being empathetic even whenever I was calling them at 2 a.m. to check out a patient. Like so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have any specific advice. I didn't have any like major like O's in intern year, I think so. But yeah, I mean, we're all in this thing together. Like,
Right.
and just because I don't know the answer to a question doesn't mean that I'm not going to learn it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think just remembering that we're all learners, just at various stages of training.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Trey, would you go next?
Yeah, so you want me to like as a med student talking to people that come behind me, is that
Well, as a med student, yes, the people who come behind you and the residents and maybe attendings who are ahead of you.
okay? Yeah, so I guess I mean I'm not very far in, so there's not very many people behind me yet. But for the ones that are coming into med school, whether you're pre-med, about to start first year, or whatever it is, um, I mean, and I'm speaking from experience here. I think the biggest challenges, or the biggest challenge to me when starting med school, yeah, the school part is it's obviously going to be hard, but I expected that. What I didn't expect is that if you let it, med school it can become your entire identity. So don't let it, because early on, like especially my first semester of med school, I was studying 24/7, just constantly, always at Volker Hall, and I found myself kind of feeling a little bit guilty when I wasn't studying or when I was hanging out with friends or when I was doing something that I wanted to do. And that kind of ate away at me a little bit. I lost contact with some of my friends and I quit doing a lot of the things that I used to enjoy doing. And then about Christmas, I realized that and I realized that I'd lost these relationships. And so for the second semester, I did a little bit better and I started, like reaching out to more people and going to play pickleball or go to hang out with my church friends, something like that, just to, get away from studying because yeah, you do need to study. You're going to have to learn all this stuff, but that cannot be your entire identity because if you're not, like in the future, whenever we are doctors, if we're constantly just draining ourselves by studying and trying to learn every single thing possible, the next day when you go see your patients, you're not going to be a good doctor. You're going to be tired. You have to take time for yourself. So that's something that really stuck out to me as a first year med student, and I'm hoping to get a little bit better at it. Now I'm about to start second year. And then let's see. I haven't really, I mean, besides attendings, I haven't really worked with, residents that much. But I like what Dr. Gwen was saying just about, we're all a big team. We're all working together. I understand the whole like pimping and like asking questions and stuff like that. But like, I'll get it eventually. So don't take it out on me, I guess. But no, I think that's just probably the biggest thing is more for the people behind us is don't let med school become your entire identity because it's just not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Lily, share with us.
There we go. It wouldn't unmute for a second. Yeah, I think a piece of advice that stuck with me for a long time, and I used it at Auburn too, just to help me get through school and different challenges, and even now in medical school. It's something my dad told me whenever I was graduating high school and I was about to give a speech, and I was so nervous because the last time I had given a speech, I had just cried and cried. And he just said, you have a voice and you have a story, and there's no one better than you to tell it. And I think that's true in medicine too. For upcoming medical students, you have a unique story. You have a reason you want to do medicine, and you have a great opportunity. There's no one better than you to do it, and you're capable of succeeding and fulfilling it. Because when you get into medical school, you can easily start comparing yourself, you can start getting imposter syndrome. So I just think it's great to remember that you have a unique opportunity and that you are capable of doing a wonderful job at succeeding and fulfilling it. Of course, lean on your colleagues, lean on your friends and your family. Like Trey was saying, don't lose contact with them and don't let go of who you are, because people are going to come in and be very different than you. And that's not a bad thing at all. That's actually a wonderful thing, because we need all different kinds of people on the team to just get the work done that needs to be done. So just stay true to yourself and keep working hard and know that you're capable. For the attendings and the residents, I really don't have much advice either, because I feel like I'm the one getting the advice from them. But I love what everyone said and just want to further echo it, that we're all here for the same purpose and we're all part of the same team and we want to help the patients at the end of the day. So I think that that's a great thing to focus on.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you all this evening, and I look forward to this episode airing, being able to hear what you guys have shared today and or letting others have the opportunity to hear from you all as well. We're going to go just round robin, lightning speed around the end. One thing I like to do is ask you to, in 1 to 2 words, describe family medicine. All right. And so 1 to 2 words, I will say that family medicine is important. And so, as you all have said, you can give a little explanation why you chose that word. But important for the reasons that you all have said, that being a good family medicine doc, being a good mentor to those who are coming behind us is how we continue to expand family medicine. And so I think it's important that we have more family physicians who can train the future of family medicine physicians. And we're important to our community, to our patients, to our communities as a whole. And so my word would be important. Family medicine is important. We'll keep the same order we've been going so everyone has the enough time to think about it. So Stuart, you're up next. Family medicine is
Rewarding. I can think of like nothing I would rather be doing, even on the tough days. Like I leave clinic and I feel fulfilled. Some days drained. I think that's any job, right? But like I can think of no other way to like serve my fellow man, no better way to serve my fellow man. And then like the relationships that you make with your patients. I've taken care of patients on like unattached call in the hospital that became my primary care patients, and like have seen them through improvement in their disease status and learned about their families. And like that's just as a fellow human, that's just so rewarding to have a small role in that. And so yeah, I think rewarding would be my descriptor.
I love that. That's a good word. Trey?
I'm gonna say two words and I'll explain it after. I'm gonna say first line and variable. So first line because you're the first person they're gonna see, especially I mean, unless it's like a crazy emergency accident, yeah, they're gonna go to the ER. But like in a small town, you're that person. You're who they're gonna see. You may not be specialized and know exactly how to fix it right there, but you can refer them to somebody and then they will eventually come back to you and then you manage their medication and stuff like that. So first line and then variable, like Dr. Gwynn was saying earlier, a lot of people have the stigma, oh, family med is flu and cold and managing blood pressure. Well, that it can be that if you want it to be that, but it's also it can be anything that you wanted it to be because you can have a fellowship and specialize further. You can do joint injections. POCUS is a big thing, especially in rural areas. You can work in your local ER if you want to. So variable is a good word that I like to use, and then also you're taking care of not just one type of person, not just one type of patient. You can start out with somebody's grandparent, and that next thing you're seeing their child, and then you're seeing their great grandchild. Like it's variable, and you build these connections with a very diverse group of people, and not just that one person that's coming in for one problem.
Absolutely. Lily. I just like saying the name Lily. It's a wonderful name. And Lily, we are going to pause for 1 minute here. You just got married. Congratulations to you. So, everyone who's listening, if you see Lily around, tell her congratulations. She recently got married. All right, Lily, finish us out here. Your word, family medicine is.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to use two words just like Trey and say
Go for it.
family medicine is both growing and joyful because growing in the way that you never know what you're going to see. You know, patients are going to come to you with every concern that they have. It's going to grow you, it's going to stretch you. You're going to see new things and get in new situations that you've never been in before, and you're going to grow from it and you're going to learn and you're going to come away stronger than you were the day before. And then I'd say joyful because it's, you know, if it's what you want to do, you're going to love every single day. You're going to see patients that you care about. You're going to build relationships with them. And over time, you're going to hopefully see them get better. You're going to walk with them through hardships, but you're going to have joy in it all because you know that this is the purpose that you were made for. So I think for me, that family medicine is growing and joyful.
Absolutely wonderful. Student Dr. Pounder, Student Dr. Pinkerton, Dr. Quinn, it has been an absolute pleasure to get to spend this time chatting with y'all today. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best as you complete your training, as you go into practice, into your careers, and all things moving forward in family medicine. So, again, thank you all. Take care.